This looks like a library behind me, which it is, but it's also been a polling place here on election day in Evanston. And we were here early on around lunchtime, and it was a steady flow of traffic coming in and out, people casting their ballots. And from what we heard, it just was about a very quick process, 2 or 3 minutes or so. And lately, with just under an hour left until polls close, things have been dwindling down a little bit. Traffic has been decreasing, but that doesn't detract from just how important this election is. And even here in Evanston, where there's a strong Democratic majority, there are plenty of other things on the ballot, and we'll get to those throughout the night. Obviously, there's an important referendum here in the city where ranked choice voting could be implemented in 2025. Also, in the state as a whole, the Workers' Right Amendment, Amendment 1, could allow workers the right to officially unionize. That could go in the Constitution if enough people support it. But let's talk a little bit more about voter turnout in general here in Evanston. Overall, throughout the years, it's been very good. In 2016 and 2018, Evanston actually led Cook County in voter turnout with just over 80%. Things weren't as good in the primaries earlier this year, with actually an abysmal 25% of the eligible voters showing out to vote. But here in early voting, about 10,000 people, just under that, showed up to the Civic Center just down the way on Ridge Avenue to vote early. And presumably, obviously, that number has increased here today. And they're voting because there's a lot of important issues on the ballot here in Evanston, as I talked about, and nationally as well. The economy, obviously, is a big issue for voters. Abortion, reproductive rights, guns, and also the threat to American democracy. We talked to one voter earlier today who says he's casting his ballot to save democracy in America. Take a listen.
Our entire republic is under threat right now because, some candidates are saying they will disregard the outcome of the election if it does not favor them. And that is just profoundly anti-democratic.
So like we said, guys, just under an hour until polls close here in Evanston. We'll be keeping an eye on the voter turnout, and we'll get back to you guys later on.
Logan, as always, thanks so much for your fantastic reporting. And yes, we will continue to check in with you throughout the night.
Gabrielle, we just had a chance, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, to talk to one of the election judges here inside the Evanston Public Library, and she explains a little bit about what takes place now that voting is officially closed. She tells me that they shut down all the equipment, and a receipt actually prints out from all of their scanners, and that shows the total number of votes that were registered here in the polling place. They actually take that receipt and then they go over to the voting machines and they look at the physical number of ballots that were cast, and they compare the number of ballots with the number that's on the receipts, the number of people that checked in, just to make sure everything looks right, everything's all as it should be. If that is the case, then they pack up all the physical ballots, all the receipts, all the equipment in these seal bags, which are very protective. Then they take those bags over to the Evanston Civic Center, which we talked about is over on Ridge Avenue. That's where more of the election hub in this area is. There they're doing another check before they actually input these results into the system. Now, that's all the in-person votes that happened here today. There's also the mail-in vote, the absentee ballots. And here in Illinois, those votes, those mail-in votes, can't actually get started. They can't actually start counting those votes until 7 p.m. right now when the polls close. So don't be surprised if the early vote, when the results start coming here early on, especially in the governor's race, don't be surprised if the red candidates, the Republicans, start to take an early lead, because as we know, Democrats traditionally vote more by mail. So don't be surprised if it takes a little bit more time for those votes to start getting counted. And speaking of the governor's race, while J.B. Pritzker did have a significant lead in polls leading up to this race, Darren Bailey knows that he needs all the Republican support that he can get, and he is based more down in the south of Illinois. He's actually from Louisville, Illinois, and hasn't actually campaigned very much here in the north of Evanston area. But we did have a chance to talk to a Republican voter here earlier, and she actually told us that she was not voting for Darren Bailey in this election. Take a listen why.
I've known a lot of politics from central Illinois. Anybody around Springfield, forget it. Forget it. People don't like Mr. Pritzker because he has money or this or that. I certainly have no hostility toward anyone who's worked for the money and isn't using mine.
So very interesting answer there from one of the people we talked to earlier. And like we said, that race, we should be getting results very soon. Gabby?
All right, Logan, thank you so much.